Bulavinaka and welcome to Fiji Village Play. I'm your host, Alipate Narawa. With me, I've got Merimoto, who is a sports commentator, also a Legend FM personality, and also who has just gotten capped over the weekend. More on that a bit later on, but coming up on the show for you today, we've got a lot for you. We'll be talking about the Vodafone Super Deans competition, the semi-finals, also about the quarterfinals that happened last week. We've also got the McDonald's Fiji Coral Coast Sevens 2027. And we'll also be talking to Crest Fiji Pearls coach Michelle Parsons later on. But Mere, first up, the capping ceremony over the weekend. How was that? After all these years of service to the white jersey, finally got your cap. What was the feeling that was going through your mind?
It was great. 10 years after making my debut, and it was special also because that was the exact venue where I debuted for Fiji Under 15s in 2016, playing against Tonga, playing against Papua New Guinea, and it's an amazing opportunity, and just to get that test cap. We call it caps over the years, but we never actually got a cap, and just to get that over the last weekend was great. And thank you to Fiji Rugby and the people behind the scenes that have worked in getting this organized for what we call ourselves the OGs of women's rugby in Fiji to get capped. It was wonderful.
How many of you got capped over the weekend?
So over the weekend, there was 4 of us that got capped. There were 2 that were part of the original team that played in 2006 in Tonga, in Nuku'alofa versus Tonga. So that was Mirani Modetumba along with Motu. They were the 2 that played. And then for me and Tavai Tarawati, we got our first cap for Fiji Under 15s 2016.
Now, a lot again was after that capping, playing all these years, also with radio. What are you doing now?
Well, at the moment, I am, as far as rugby is concerned, currently the strength and conditioning coach for the Suva women's rugby team, and part of the Super Rails Marama competition currently happening at the moment. So that's what I'm doing with rugby, and obviously there's the radio work and all the other things that's happening.
Now, since you were there, you were kept on a Saturday also with the Vodafone Fijana 15s. They played against the Springbok women's team. What is your analysis on this? Because there's been a lot of comments going on about that game. And what was your take on it?
Well, obviously, it would have been nice that our Vodafone Fijana team to win that game. But South Africa ladies, they came firing. They came out on the first minute all the way till the 80th minute, and they just they rattled us throughout the game. And I think that was probably their plan, was to not let us settle into the game. Because when we settle, we know how good we are. We know how good our goals are. And that's exactly what they did. And they stuck to their plan. We just didn't settle in that game.
Not only did we not settle, this is a team that has been playing together for the past couple of months in the Super W with only like a few players coming in to the system.
That's right.
So they should have been able to handle this easily. Unfortunately, they were rattled.
Yep, like I said, it was unfortunate that they got rattled in that game. But obviously you would have heard of the post match interview with the new coach that they have. They've got a lot to work on for this weekend, and I'm sure they've analyzed that game, and they'll do better for this Saturday.
So what areas do you think they'll be improving in this Saturday when they take on the Springbok women at 1 p.m. at Churchill Park?
Definitely matching the forward pack of the South African women up front. We know our girls are good at it, and they're pretty mobile around the field, but the opportunity needs to be created for them as well. So for me, it's match up with the forwards and just keeping our ball and creating the opportunity for us to be able to score those tries with our fast backline that we know can go.
What are you? Who are your picks for these Vodafone Super Deans semi-finals? There's one in Lautoka between Rahai and Suvagrama, while the other one is in Suva with Lilin and Nasino Secondary.
Well, it's going to be a tough one because as we've seen this year, and it can be anybody's game, and it'll go down to the wire for sure. Being the Suva girl, I'd like to say Suva grammar, but Ra has proven that they are in it to win it. And that's, my money's on them for the game in the West this weekend. And with the Liline Nasinu, because I'm a girl that was brought up in the Turek Hills. So I'm going to go for Liline on this one.
Liline. How come Liline and not, because what? Is it a church school?
Because I went to Dudley and we're like sister cousin school, and I'm gonna go for Liline on this one.
Last week with Tifa on the show, I had gone for all the Western schools. Only one has made it through, but that was the one that no one expected. And there's also a lot of talk about that ground in Garvey Park, with the students digging out stones from the ground just a few hours before kickoff. And the Taupo Town Council has responded and said that they hope that things like this never happen in the future, that they will make checks. I just don't think that they expected that big of a crowd coming down to Tavua. But coming up after this, we'll be talking about the McDonald's Fiji Coral Coast Sevens 2027, which Mary IKEA might just be commentating on. We'll talk about that a bit after this.
At Communications Fiji Limited, we are more than just radio. We are Fiji and the Pacific's largest and most dynamic media group, reaching people wherever they are, however they connect. We connect daily with over 3.77 million listeners across the region. Let's create something amazing together. On air, online, on the streets, on stage, Communications Fiji Limited is where connection happens. With innovation, reach, and creativity, we are the complete media partner for your business.
Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Alipate Narawa. With me is sports commentator Mary Moto. Mary, now we've just confirmed the 2027 McDonald's Fiji Coral Coast Sevens is back, and this is its 15th edition, and it's from the 14th to the 16th of January. Even though it's a few months away, preparation has already started. There's already a lot of hype coming up around the competition coming up again. The Yarrow Chiefs are the defending champions, and organizer Jay White has confirmed that they are in a good shape at the moment, as they're already preparing for the Coral Coast Sevens. Now, with you most probably commentating at this thing, it's been a couple of years since you were last at your last Coral Coast Sevens doing commentary. What are you looking forward to this year?
Oh, obviously.
Next year.
Obviously, it's at Coral Coast Sevens is always a festival, and it's always great atmosphere, and always great to see the talent, the local talent that comes through, and then to see them transition from their local clubs and then into national teams as well. So I'm hoping that we get to uncover more new talents at this year's Coral Coast Sevens, as it does every year. And of course, in as far as the champions is concerned, whoever preps well for this Coral Coast Sevens will win it. And, having been a player and having been someone that's coached teams at Coral Coast Sevens and sitting in the commentary box, I've pretty much done every end of Coral Coast Sevens, in different roles. It's definitely going to be interesting, 2027 Coral Coast Sevens.
So it'll be maintaining its 24 men's team format, and the winner will be walking away with $50,000 again next year. Now, so Yarrow Chiefs have confirmed, because they are the defending champions. We've also got the Australian and the New Zealand men's teams that have confirmed. And also Chennai Bulls. These were a new addition last year, beloved by the local crowd. So this year, they'll be fielding both a men's and a women's team. What do you think about this team all the way from India?
Well, they will definitely, again, the women's team, I've seen a couple of their games. They've taken part in some of the international games, and they've done pretty well. And Koroko Sevens, we always love teams that come in from overseas, but we again love our local team. So Yarrow Chiefs for sure will step up their preparation, knowing that we've got these teams from overseas. Apart from national teams, there are clubs that are coming in as well. Looking forward to what they bring, because to be honest, it's always hard for visiting teams at Koroko Sevens. They have to deal with the weather. They have to deal with a crowd, traveling, and things being very, very different here in Fiji as compared to where they are based at. So definitely should be interesting with these international team inclusions.
With all these big teams coming in, there has yet to be an overseas team to lift the Koroko Sevens title.
Yep. Well, every time I'm going to just put on my old player's hat on this one,
okay,
because being part of the Striders team. So Striders Women's Rugby Club is the only club, a local club that's ever I've ever won the Koroko Sevens. Every other team that's won it has mostly been shadow teams, so shadow Fijiana teams, shadow New Zealand teams and Australian teams and Hong Kong teams. These are the teams that have already been to Koroko Sevens and have stamped their mark, and it's on the Nairi trophy. And there's the only one that's the Striders. I'm bragging rights a little bit.
Yeah, I can tell that there's a bit too much there. But so from the local team, you've got Yarrow Chiefs, the police coming back in. Police white, police blue. Now, the thing that I love about our local sevens tournaments is that this is where we usually get our sevens squad from. We usually get them from here. Some of the Yarrow Chiefs players had gone over to the national sevens team, and some are still in the squad. Now, do you think we need to have more local tournaments to as a gateway into...
I believe that the local tournaments, we do have quite a lot of those local tournaments. I think it's just more of the standards of the games. So with obviously when you have the inclusion of international teams like they have at the Koroko Sevens, it just gives it a different dynamic, and it challenges our local players more than when we do have our local tournaments. And you would notice that in local tournaments it becomes very one-sided, and whereas with the Koroko Sevens, the good thing is that the overseas teams, those international teams, bring a different dynamics and challenges our players to step up. And we know we're good to step up and challenge.
Coming up after this, I've got the Crest Fiji Pearls coach Michelle Parsons, and we'll be talking a bit about the World Cup qualifiers that's coming up next month in Tonga.
Bula Fiji villagers, we've had a bit of a glow up, and we know some of you are probably wondering, hey wait, where did the videos go? Don't worry, we didn't hide them. The video section has a brand new name, and it's now called Watch. That means all your favorite videos and shows are now in one place and easier to find. Want your Fiji Village Straight Talk with VG and Orion? It's there. Looking for Trending Amo Vengu? It's there too. Latest videos? Yep, all there. Don't miss the Watch section on Fiji Village, your trusted news provider for the latest videos, stories, and shows all in one place. Go and have a look and tell us what you're watching first.
Bulavanaka, and welcome back to Fiji Village Play. I'm your host, Alipate Narawa. And with me, as I promised earlier, I've got the Crest Fiji Pearls coach, Miss Michelle Parsons. Bulavanaka, Mrs. Parsons, and welcome to the show.
Bulavanaka.
How has, you just recently picked your squad for the Crest Fiji Pearls for the World Cup qualifiers in Tonga next month. But just tell me a bit about the Fiji Invitationals that led up to you being able to pick your squad.
Yeah, the concept was to host a tournament that would allow us to put the girls under performance pressure so that the final selections were performance context rather than just a trial context. You know, when you see them in a team and you get to see them change and grow over time, but also play against teams that are unknown. So the Invitational was a really important selection piece for the selection panel.
So you're able to see them playing a couple of games a day?
So yeah, each team got to play at least one game a day, which is ideal for us, and also against teams that have been training and preparing for this. So when you come into camp the day before and you don't have the preparation time, it's really good for the girls to be able to adjust and learn quickly.
So you were able to finally pick your team from the. You've got now 12 and 3, and there's some non-traveling reserves as well.
Yeah, so the 12 are the girls that have been selected to tour, and then we have some non-travelling reserves that are there to make sure that if there's an injury or illness, something that requires a player not to be able to travel, then they're ready to go as well. So they also receive the same strength and conditioning program, one that's been made for them specifically, but it's about making sure that they're as prepared as the 12 that are going.
So you said that before coming in to coach the Crest Fiji Pearls, you've already coached some Fijian women as well in New Zealand. Could you speak a bit on that?
Yeah, I've been really fortunate to coach for quite some time in netball, and some of the girls that have stood out to me in terms of their athleticism, but they're just genuine enthusiasm and desire to be better. But one of the things that also stood out for me was their ability to be in the moment. They are able to play in the moment and fix things in the moment and not carry things over. And that's a really strong mental skill, to be able to stay in performance focus rather than be trapped with sometimes making an error on court. Those girls were able to go, okay, I understand it, and move on. And I thought that was a really amazing strength to have alongside your physical attributes.
So now that you've picked your squad, how's the training coming along so far?
Yeah, well, first week of training post-tournament, and we've got quite a lot of illness through the team, unfortunately, and sometimes it happens when you're, through a tournament and girls are tired and need the recovery time, but also if one person gets sick, sometimes multiple people get sick. So it's been a bit disrupted this week. We've probably had about half the number that we normally would at training this week. But it's better to have it now than closer to preparation time before we leave.
So how many of overseas-based players do we currently have in the squad?
So we have 4 overseas-based players in the squad, that's in the 12. And then we've got a couple that are sitting in the non-travelling reserves. So really great that our domestic girls have proven that they're ready, but also I think just as important to acknowledge that there are girls that are based overseas that are Fijian, that are applying their trade in netball and other arenas that want to be seen as eligible. And the wider squad and our development space, you will see that there's a lot of girls that are based in other countries that will be named in those squads, because we want them to know that there's a pathway through for Netball Fiji. That even if you don't make that 12, there is still an opportunity to represent Fiji at a later date, and we've seen them.
Have you expressed this interest to them so that they know that there is a possibility they could make it into the squad? Yeah,
that's been part of the strong messaging that, yes, we're picking right now for September, and that's obviously a priority. And it's a very short runway, so we need to select girls that are as close to performance ready as possible. But we're planning for the next 4-year cycle. The next qualifiers for World Cup are 2028. The next World Cup is 2029. It's now a 2-year cycle. Yeah, so they've shifted from a 4-year pinnacle event to a 2-year pinnacle event, and obviously they want to build not just viewership but performance for the 2032 Olympics to see if we can, vie for a place there. So we've literally got a really short cycle now, but my focus for the next 3 years is 2028, 2029. And to be able to shift our rankings so that we're seen as legitimate contenders for the next Commonwealth Games.
You spoke about rankings. What are our kind of rankings at the moment?
We're 16th, but I'm guessing that the rankings post-Commonwealth Games will be coming out soon, and World Netball will be looking at how those have affected the rankings.
Did these rankings affect our qualification for the Commonwealth Games 2026?
Absolutely, yeah, and that's exactly what it is. Our ranking was lower than Tonga's and Samoa's, and Tonga was ranked the highest Pacific island behind the natural qualifiers. So the top 5-6 countries in the world get automatic qualifications. So New Zealand and Australia are going to go forward, and it's who is the next highest ranked country in our region, and that was Tonga. They were ranked 8 in the world, so that's why they qualified for the Commonwealth Games.
So these next World Cup qualifiers in Tonga, is this our last chance to get into the World Cup?
It is. It's literally the only chance we've got to get into the 2027 World Cup. And that's why it is incredibly important that we try and get some players that are seasoned and hardened and understand what it's like to be under performance pressure through a tournament, and already have a lot of the physical conditioning and skill sets that we need. We are building succession plans for 2028, 2029, but we do need to recognise that there are girls who are playing professional netball who are Fijian that are already physically hardened and ready to take the court. And we need to make sure that we utilise those players and help grow the girls that are coming through.
Coming into, before taking up your job at the Crest Fiji Pearls head coach, you had plans coming in on building a world-class high-performance environment, one that honors a unique Fijian style of play. How has your last few months with the team been in accordance to what you had brought in to the team?
The girls they've adjusted so quickly. They're amazing. They're beautiful, beautiful young women, and it's been really fun. That's probably the highlight of my time, has been working with them. They're growing so quickly, and you don't see shifts until 12 weeks into a program to be able to see any physical shifts. But the important thing for people to remember is you also don't see high performance shifts until 2 years after you've done something. So, when you're doing a 4-year cycle, it's because you see shifts after 2 years. The 1999 crew that were the highest rank we've ever been, 6th in the world, they didn't come in and be successful straight away. They started their campaign in 1997, and they didn't win everything then, but when they hit 1999 and they'd had the time together, that's when you were able to see what they were capable of. These girls need time to be able to show what they're capable of. They're not going to do it in 2 or 3 months. So that's why 27 is really important to us as we build to 2028 qualifiers. Right now, the ability for them to get personalised strength and conditioning programs has been huge for them. It's not a generic program. It's not just I show up to the gym. It's netball contextualised programming. So it's an S&C coach who understands what netball conditions are.
So who is the S&C coach that is?
So I brought in Barry Jennings, and I know him from his work that he's done across New Zealand. He's an experienced track and field coach as well as an experienced netball high performance strength and conditioning coach. And Baz gives girls individualised programs for them as we track where they are. And so when I'm looking at skill focus for you, it's very different to what it looks like for me, and that's what we're doing over the course of their training programs. The other shift has been physiotherapy. A lot of these girls haven't had dedicated rehabilitation programs where it's gone from a diagnosis to rehabilitation to a return to play plan to testing to make sure you're ready to get back on the court. So we've got a lot of girls with historical injuries that haven't been treated or managed. So you'll see some girls right now that are heavily strapped as we work through getting them back to full conditioning because we haven't rehabbed them properly previously.
So how many would be, just a number on how many girls need to go the full treatment on rehab?
I would say 50% of our players are currently in a diagnostic and rehabilitation. Yeah. So that's what shocked me when I first started, was the number of girls that actually had untreated injuries or unmanaged injuries. So we've come in with a dedicated program around rehabilitation, regular treatment, and a return to play protocol. So I've literally had to rule 2 girls out this season for the next 9 months who otherwise would have been told that they're ready to play.
So would it have been the previous management that were not checking on this?
Well, I'm not sure how they managed injuries. All I know is that when I'm working with a team, the physiotherapist is an incredibly important part of your management team. And I work with them on loading for training, on what the girls are capable of doing, but also physically how ready they are as an athlete before I pick them as a player. So we've done testing, we've done medical screening, and we've looked at them and we've gone literally, did you know that you have a 54% deficit in your left knee right now? We need to work on that single leg work. And they're going, no.
So you're able to judge each.
So we're using testing that allows us to literally drill into single leg testing results and shows us what's happening. And the girls that we've been worried about that we've put through that testing, it has isolated some high risk injuries, which meant 2 girls literally not playing netball for the next 9 months while we rehabilitate them. And some of them are on loaded minutes while we rehabilitate them to full strength. That's where the physio and the S&C are so critical in working together with me. So we literally manage the load while keeping them strong. We don't want them to rest. We don't want them to stop. It's actually how do we make sure that we keep them doing the strength work, keep them doing the right skill work, while also not damaging them any further. So I have a long-term goal for these girls. I don't want to play for a week and then break them. You know, we want them to be playing for the next several years.
Right, just lastly, you had raised something earlier in an early interview in terms of the facilities in Fiji not being up to par. What were your comments on that for those that don't know about this?
Yeah, a lot of our girls have struggled with the court surfacing, and obviously court availability for us is a weekly issue. I'm finding out on a weekly basis where we've been able to get court. And, you know, for a national team preparing for a World Cup qualifier, it's a bit of a struggle for us to get court facilities. We're currently using the International School in Suva, which is lovely, and we're so fortunate that they're looking after us. And their courts are actually a really good surface. But some of the facilities that we're using don't stop when the girls need to stop, so they're sliding a lot.
Is it a bit too slippery?
Yeah, so it's almost like there's a surfacing on it, and we don't play on the main Vodafone Arena. We don't train there. We train at Hall A and we train at FMF. And the girls often slide, and so the mechanics of stopping in a sport like ours, which is very quick, means that they're sliding like almost on a clay tennis court, and then they're going to Sydney to play and stopping immediately. So there was a real change in the mechanics of how they played because of the surface they're playing on.
They're not used to stopping.
No, they're used to literally sliding a little bit. And so we got to Sydney and the girls were, and that loaded their muscles.
Their knees would get it the most.
Yeah, literally knees, ankles, hamstrings, and Achilles. So we were seeing the girls pick up chronic injuries that they already had were now being highlighted and exacerbated by the load that was coming from stopping.
Have you highlighted this with the Sports Commission?
I had a chat to Peter Maisie, and it was a surprise for him, and he also asked about our utilisation of Vodafone Arena. And look, the number one court, it was really good for tournament, but we don't get access to that. We're not training on that. So the facilities that we're training on, those are the ones that I think we need to do a really good either clean and resurface, and because multiple users are using it, you know, so there is a need for high quality netball surfaces for the girls to be able to train.
So maybe just a dedicated netball court.
Oh, that would be
because
wonderful.
at the moment those courts are being used for multiple sports, from basketball to badminton, futsal,
yeah,
and all different surfaces.
Yeah, you're right. And a dedicated netball surface would be wonderful. And I understand that it's highly costly and not necessarily a great model for returning revenue. But what I would say is there's a lot of netball teams, I think, that outside of the national team would utilise that. So, you know, that's why in other countries you see dedicated indoor netball courts that are highly used by netball only. And I do think there's an opportunity for someone to invest in a netball facility here. I know that clubs would use it if it was cost effective, and we would certainly use it. But then we could also look to host other teams for tournaments and have them come over. And that's what we're looking at doing at the moment. We're looking to it with other countries.
So right now, the only courts that are up to par, which ones are these courts?
I would say Vodafone Arena, the surface that we played on. Yeah, that was really good last week. And that's probably it in terms of international standard. FNU's gym was really good for our trials. It's a really good training course.
Is this the one in the Sino?
Yes, and it's probably not big enough for us to host anything, but the quality of the surface was very good. And then the other surfaces would be fine. I think we just maybe need to look at what we can do to those surfaces to make sure that they have the stickability that we need.
All right, thanks very much, Coach, for coming in. And I hope to catch up with you just before you guys fly out to the World Cup qualifiers in Tonga. Level. That's our show for this evening. Let us know who you'd love to see sitting here with us. What sport it would be, whether it be karate, swimming. Let us know, and we'll get them here on the show. Until next time, have a good one.